I'm gonna hide this tape when I'm finished. If none of us make it, at least there'll be some kind of record.
Never grow old, Michael.
The blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
Showtime.
Spring the first blood. Spring the first blood. Spring the first blood. Spring the first blood. Spring the first blood.
Recording in progress. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So, Meghan, welcome to Sinister Scripts podcast. So today, everyone, we've got a special guest with us. This is Meghan Adara, and she is the lead in a starring role for an upcoming independent horror film called The Cellar. So thank you for being with us.
Yes,
That's
thank
okay.
you.
That's okay. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so the first question I have for you, because I was very curious, I wanted to, well, first, before we even get into any kind of questions or having conversation, congratulations to you and the entire Cellar team. I saw that you got Best Horror Feature at the Haunted House Fear Fest in New York.
Yes, we did.
very
I
cool.
bought the award.
Oh, that's so cool. And that's what you had to fly to New York for, right?
Thank you. Yeah. And I also won Best Actress as well. Another one. Sorry, was that another one?
No, that was the next thing I was going to say was congratulations to you for the London Indie Film Fest. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
That's
so
very
I'm very
cool.
excited. So I just like that.
So how does that feel? Like that's got to be like super like validating.
Right?
Yeah. So the New York one, I knew we had won. And basically 3 days before the event, I decided that I was going to go to New York and collect the award. Because if you don't go, you don't get the event, the award. And I was like, I can't not go and like not have the award to like congratulate everyone involved. So I was like, I've got to go. So 3 days before I booked it, had to get my like visa like sorted, and it could take up to like 48 hours, and I'm like panicking.
Oh
I
no.
booked my flights and I misplaced my passport. So it took me 2 hours to find my passport, and my whole room was literally like a bomb had gone off because I'm frantically searching for my passport. And then I found it and I was so happy. And then, yeah, we went to the awards. We stayed in New York for, I think, 4 nights and 5 days. And we got to, have a look around, do all the touristy stuff.
Right.
At one point, I completely forgot that I was going to the awards because I went a few days before the awards. So it was the night before I was leaving. So I'd had this really nice time in New York. And then I was like, oh, what are we doing tomorrow? And my boyfriend was like, we're going to your awards ceremony. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's
Oh,
fine.
yeah. The whole reason why we're here.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. I met a lot of, obviously, filmmakers from like different parts of the world. Like someone came from Australia, which was mad,
Nice.
literally the day before. Some people won loads of awards, so congratulations to them. And it was quite nerve-wracking because everyone made a speech and I had to go up, and I was going to make a speech, and then I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to do it, or I'm just going to run up there, grab the award, be like, thanks.
Thanks.
I went up, I went up and I did a speech. Got to like say on behalf of everyone involved in the cellar that it's like such a proud moment and we're like completely like blown away and like thank you so much. So yeah, that was a really fun experience because it's my first ever award ceremony.
Okay.
I didn't really know what to expect.
Right.
And yeah, and then my boyfriend and I decided on the way home we'd stop in Copenhagen because my flight, we had to have a stop-off flight from Copenhagen to London. So we're like, oh, we'll just go to Copenhagen for a couple of days. We've been there before. We want to go back, You're already there. Why not? And then the first day I was there, found out I won Best Actress. I was in the middle of a food hall and I just broke down crying. Yeah, it was pretty like surreal. I basically just froze and just sat there and looked at my boyfriend and he was like, what? Like something really terrible had happened. And I was like pointing at my phone like, look. But I couldn't talk. I was completely frozen, like, oh my God, I can't believe it. So yeah, it kind of hasn't sunk in.
Yeah.
But I don't believe it. Like I feel like they've made a mistake.
Right.
Oh
But then
yeah.
at the same time, it's really cool because it has my name on it. So I'm gonna frame it and I'm gonna put it on my wall.
That's
Maybe
awesome.
up there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. So for the does the film, like Jamie, who did the well, he's director, right? Or
Yeah.
producer. Okay. Do they submit your film and like the actors for the awards, or are you nominated by like the Independent Film Festival? So is this something that like you guys were like, hey, let's go ahead and put our name in the hat for consideration, or or was this completely like, hey, they nominated me because they saw the film and then I won?
So I found out recently, literally like yesterday, we've also been nominated for the LA Z Festival,
Okay.
which is in a couple of days.
Nice.
And I was asking if it was like similar to New York where you have to go to collect the award.
Hmm.
And he was like, I don't know if we've won an award at the moment. Basically, you will just turn up,
Hmm.
view the screening, and then they will like announce
Oh
the
wow.
winners there and then. And I was
Okay.
like, oh, okay. So for some of them, like the New York one, Jamie put it in,
Mm.
and I think for some of them you're automatically entered into every single category,
Sure.
and
Oh,
then
okay.
the festival will pick which, award category you're going to win. And then for other ones that Jamie's put in, you have to pay for each category.
Hmm.
So he's had to be really selective on which awards he thinks, will win,
Right.
Yeah.
because he can't go spending loads of money on all
Right.
of the
On
categories.
everything, yeah.
So it's a mixture between, but I think the majority of films, once you've entered it, you're automatically entered in every single category, and then
That's
they choose.
cool.
Yeah,
That's really cool because like I mean, obviously you always think the people you work with are the best, right? So it's
Yeah,
cool if kind
yeah.
of if a group of people that are outside of that circle
Mm,
recognize and be like, wow, we think that
yeah,
she did a fantastic job. So that's super
yeah.
awesome. Congratulations. And so
Thank you.
hopefully that'll be the first in a long line of many, right?
ex-
Hopefully, hopefully. Yeah, I mean,
So
the
yeah, go
film
ahead.
itself wants loads, but yeah.
Yeah. So I have to ask, are you a horror fan, or is this just kind of a niche that you kind of were like, hey, I got a first role in it and it fit and it felt good? Or if you are a horror fan, what is your favorite horror movie?
Oh God. But no, I'm a horror fan. I've always grown up watching horror films.
Okay.
I really
cool.
like true crime documentaries as well, so I've always been into that. Um, and I think with my like personal background as well, I've also been even more interested in horror and like thrillers. So I think that's the reason why I've gone down that route of, that genre. I have like done other feature films that are, horrors and thrillers, not as like a lead role, as like
Hmm.
supporting role.
Mhm.
So I've had experience within that genre within feature films, but it was my first experience as being a lead for a feature film, which I was very shocked about, and even more shocked that the film is doing really well because I was like, "There's no way that me being the lead is gonna do well." But yeah, I've always loved horrors. Like my mum and my dad literally like hate the fact that I love horrors because that's all I wanted to watch when I was younger. Um,
That's my parents too.
It's paying
um,
off though.
yeah, that's what I said. I said, and now I'm in them, so you can't
Yeah.
complain. But I think it scares me a lot. Like sometimes I can't sleep because when I think about it, I'm like terrified. The film I wouldn't say it's like my ultimate favorite, but I
Hmm.
remember being like absolutely terrified.
Hmm.
One night I went to sleep and I saw two orange lights and I genuinely thought it was
Oh, geez.
him, like just standing there watching me.
So
Yeah.
Every
is
time I
this
go
the
to the
original
bath.
It
The
with
original
Tim
one?
Curry, or
Oh no no
the
no no
the
no,
new
the
one? Okay,
new
the one
one.
with
The new,
Bill
yeah, I
Skarsgård.
haven't
Okay.
seen the original.
Okay.
Um,
That's
I've
okay.
seen
That's
the new
okay.
one.
I recommend
Yeah,
it. It's definitely it's a bit different. Did you read the book by chance? The
no.
Stephen King book? No? Okay. I was just curious. A good friend of mine is an avid reader. I'm not so much. I want the Spark Notes and then I'll watch the movie. That's fine. But
Yeah, yeah.
he says that the It book is like of course everybody says it's way better than the movie. And so I grew
Mm,
up and I watched the one with Tim Curry and then I
yeah.
watched the
Yeah.
first remake with Bill Skarsgård and I really loved that one. And I liked him as Pennywise. I thought he was very, very
Yeah.
terrifying. I actually have
Yeah.
in our front yard of my house, there's like a sewer, and every Halloween I want to hang a red balloon out of
Oh no.
out of the
No.
street.
Every time I see a red balloon, I'm like,
Yep.
Oh wow.
okay.
Yeah. I mean the book definitely has a lot more really messed up stuff in it that I'm glad
Yeah.
they did not include in the original film or even the remake for that matter. It's been a long time since I've read it, but I do remember specific things. I was like, yeesh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, he's a bit twisted though, isn't he? And
But
everything.
Yeah, some of his stuff, yes, for sure.
But I like the
Yeah.
idea. I like the idea that he's like if you're not afraid of him, he can't hurt you. You know, he like feeds off of like fear and like so. But it's kind of hard. Like, how are you not afraid of that? Like, and he's like this shapeshifter and like, yeah,
Just a clown in general,
It's-
evil clown.
yeah.
So,
Clowns don't so much
Right.
bother me, but my wife is like, if she
but
sees
a lot of people are
a
though.
lot, it's a big phobia.
A lot of
Absolutely.
people,
Yeah, no. I mean, when I was younger, I was chased by a clown. I think that's why I don't like it because I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
chased by.
That is
But also,
horrifying.
apparently, the actors in it, they didn't ever see him in
Mm.
his costume before filming, so their reactions are genuine.
That's
They're like
awesome.
they're like genuinely terrified of him because they haven't seen him prior to filming, which I thought was really cool.
I love
But
when
I
Yeah, I like
that was
that.
me. I'd be like, I can't do this.
I love when films
thanks.
do that. Like, what's the one that's coming out Christmas? Nosferatu that's coming out Christmas
Oh
Day.
yeah,
I love Robert Eggers, and I've heard like we've seen very little of Bill Skarsgård again as Count Orlok, and so in the previews they're not showing him, which I love because I'm like, don't give away that reveal in a preview, which is one big pet peeve of
Exactly.
mine. And I've actually read that what is her name? Lily Rose Depp has seen very little of him in this full makeup too, so a lot of her reaction is going to be genuine. So I think it really does, to your point, like it is genuine fear and like shock when you see it.
Yeah,
yeah,
it definitely adds to it for sure.
Absolutely.
yeah, definitely, yeah.
So I was just going to comment. I did see that you have a pretty extensive acting background. I looked you up on IMDb and looked at some of the previous film and stuff. I didn't know you were in Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey too.
Yeah, I didn't know
Yeah.
either. He told me like 10 minutes ago. I was like, was she?
I was like, yeah,
Not
she was
like-
credited as a raver.
Yeah, not like not a main character.
Right.
Basically, someone I went to college with, he plays Tigger.
Oh,
We were in the
cool.
same cast together.
Yeah.
So when he got cast, I was like, well, I've got to do it. Like, I could see him on set. I haven't seen him since. Well, I also went to uni and we were at the uni at the same time too. So I hadn't seen him since uni and it's been like a few years and I was like, oh my God, like I could see him on set, like that would be so cool. And then some other people that I've worked with also were like extras as well. So when I turned up, it was a really nice surprise seeing familiar faces. And we basically just got to, dance and jump up and down for like hours in like the underneath of the tube station, I think it was. So yeah, it was an interesting set. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, one of the people I went to college with was in it, so even better.
That's so awesome. I like that movie. It was funny. Like I remember when
I
the
liked it
first
a lot, too.
the first one came out, and I was like,
Yeah.
wow. Like you could tell, like they had like their budget was definitely small, and they had some
Yeah.
challenges. And then they were like, hey, I started hearing all this steam that like, hey, listen, like they're getting a lot like a cult following, and they're getting a serious budget increase, and the second one's going to come out. And so David and I actually went. There was a couple select movie theaters near us that played it. I think it played very few, like for like a weekend, right? In
Yeah.
theaters
Yeah.
here,
Very
and
small,
we went and watched it, and I think we were like 4 people in our theater, and it was awesome. I had so much fun with that
It was
movie.
amazing. It was so great.
I love when a
I
theater is
haven't-
empty. Like
I
like
haven't
'cause-
seen it.
Oh, it's so good. Like, I mean, well, let me. It's always like horror. I feel like all film is subjective, but I feel like horror is even more so because everyone's afraid of something different. What
Yeah.
scares me doesn't scare you, and vice versa. So I think, and then you also get into the argument of like blood and gore and like what's over the top. Some people love, with Terrifier. and even Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, like it's not for everyone. But personally, like as someone who grew up and I was born in '86, so I grew up in that like Disney heyday, and like watching a lot of these characters from like Disney and cartoons and stuff become these like, what if we made them into horror characters? And I'm like, that's the best idea I ever heard.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
And now that it's open, what is it called? Open source, or it's like free for anyone to like use.
Yeah.
For anyone to use, yeah.
So even more so, I think it's amazing. I think you should go check that one out. I mean, you were in it, you kind of got to check it out.
Yeah, you kind of have to.
But that's the thing. I don't watch things I'm in, so.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
So you haven't watched The Cellar?
I'll skip that part of the raving scene and just watch the rest of the film.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And then the other film that I wanted to ask you about that you were in was The Caller.
Yeah.
So that one, I just read the synopsis really quick, and it sounded interesting. Is there anywhere, do you know, we can watch that? Is it like streaming anywhere, or?
Yeah, it's on, I think it's on Amazon, Apple, Virgin, Sky Store.
Okay, I'll have to check that one out. I saw it, and it was, I think, was it the 911 operator is terrorized by a crazy person, a psychopath?
Yeah, so basically the film is about a girl who works for customer services at a bank.
That's okay.
And she gets a call from someone who has an issue with his bank statement and he wants it sorted. And basically she doesn't do it to his satisfaction, and he takes revenge against her because he thinks what she has done is, like absolutely awful. How dare she? Doesn't understand the fact that obviously it's not her actual, it's
policies.
Not her that's actually done it. She's trying to do her best, and he doesn't think that the level of advice that she has given him is, what's the word?
Satisfactory.
Yeah, basically. But I'm the first victim in the film, so I'm in the basically the opening scene.
Okay.
And then it will follow on to the next one, and it's like, this guy has done it before.
Okay.
Who is this guy? What is his motive and reasons for doing it?
Gotcha.
It was a lot of fun to film. And actually, one of the girls in the film is also in the first Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, nice. Cool. I like movies like that. I like movies like that where it's like normal, everyday activities that set someone off.
It can be realistic.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, as somebody who's been in customer service for like 15 years of my life, like I definitely want to check this one out because it could definitely happen.
Or maybe you don't want to check it out.
Yeah, maybe you don't.
Well, I don't do that anymore, so I'm okay.
Oh, okay, you're all good then.
So
I'm safe.
My next question for you is, did you start with theater, or did you always did you go to film, or was they like, if you started like theater, I think I read some that you had done some theater and some what's the difference between like that transition between being on like a theater production and then going into like film?
Yeah. So I started off in theater.
Okay.
I did part-time like theater group after in summer holidays after school with my friend, and I ended up really enjoying it, and I decided to take it up as one of my drama GCSEs, which was probably one of the worst decisions of my entire life, because drama GCSE is not the same as actual performing. It's quite traumatizing, but here I am. And then from drama at school, I did it in college. And that was like a complete different to obviously GCSE. It was way more practical than theory based.
Mm-hmm.
And, we got to have so much fun together putting on these like shows. And I think all like theatre education or, performing education is always very focused around theatre, especially back when I was, studying, whereas now they've got courses that are just for film or just for like screen acting, learning to act on the screen, all these different things. And when I was in level 3 acting, because I started off in level 2 performing and production arts, and then I went on to level 3. They were starting to bring in a focus on screen acting. So we did a term of screen acting where the majority of our stuff was theatre. We put on, theatre shows, stage shows for family, friends, and other, what's it called, students. And then when I was at college, our tutor was friends with a theatre director, and she had a theatre company in Brighton. And they were saying that they needed a few people to go along because she's creating a new show for Brighton Fringe. Do you want to go along, have a test, and she'll see, whether you fit into the cast or not. And it was my first ever time doing a proper, professional theatre, group, because all my other ones were children's ones, so it was amateur little fun things to do to fill your time, that sort of thing. So it was a proper professional, and we'd been recommended by our college teachers, so it was quite nerve-wracking. And I went in and I was super nervous, and I did it, and she said, I went back the second week and she said to me, I'll never forget it. She said to me, when you walked in, I didn't have much hope for you. And I was like, oh.
Wow.
Wow.
And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, well, you come across as very shy and very reserved. I didn't think that you were gonna, mix in. And she went, and then the moment you start performing, that's it. You're completely focused. Your stage presence is insane. And she went, and I knew from that moment that I wanted you in the show. And then I did Brighton Fringe with her. And I got scouted by my first acting agent, which was completely insane. I remember I was in college doing my coursework, and I got an email from the theatre director being an agent wants to chat, meet up with you. And I just lost my mind in the middle of a library, which you're not meant to do. And I just completely lost it. And then I did more theatre with that theatre company. And then I decided that I prefer film over theatre. I think theatre is way more naturalistic compared to theatre, if you know what I mean. Film is very more toned down. Obviously, with theatre, you have to project your voice more, all your movements have to be bigger so that
exaggerated.
Exaggerated.
See you and hear you. So TV and film was always the route I wanted to go. But everyone says that you have to train in theatre to learn to act before you go into TV, because if you can do TV and film. So that was my route into where I am now.
That's awesome. That's great. So what advice do you have? So my daughter is 7, and she sees movies all the time, and she's like, how do I get to, she's big into the Descendants right now with the Disney villains characters. And she's like, I want to do that. How do you get to do that? I'm like, well, it takes work, and you have to, take some classes, learn acting, learn theater. There's a lot of steps through this. So if you had a piece of advice to give to younger actors, even kids that are thinking this looks like a lot of fun, what would your biggest piece of advice be for them to kind of get started?
Go join a theatre group.
Okay.
Take part in after school, performing art stuff, even if it's at school. Join the musical theatre shows that your school does. Basically just take every opportunity of performing that you can, even if it isn't, a massive thing. Because not only do you want to do it as a career, it's the most fun that you'll ever have, and you won't feel like you're working. And that's basically what I did. I just, I studied it at school, and then I went to all these theatre groups, and that's how I got to where I am. So my advice is just, go join a theatre group if you have one local to you. Or maybe just, record some monologues or create your own work and put it on YouTube. I mean, loads of people do that now.
Social media is definitely becoming
easier.
TikToks that can get you seen. Basically just grab every performance opportunity you can if that's what you want to do.
Awesome. Thanks. Okay. All right. Awesome. So let's kind of transition into the Cellar. So I wanted to start with, and I know that it's been going to film festivals all over the globe, and you just had like your major premiere, I think September
Yeah, that's correct.
8th, I believe. And
Mhm.
so is there, so I don't know how much you can give away. I know there's still plenty of people that haven't seen the film. I know it's been released
Yeah.
to the Indiegogo backers, but I wondered if you could give us just a quick synopsis of the movie for those who've not had the opportunity to either watch the trailer or heard it. Like hype it up for us a little bit and tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about what we can expect from it. I mean, David and I have seen it, but for the
Okay.
listeners.
Right. Okay. Cool. So basically, I play Abigail, who is the main protagonist in the film, and she decides to go join a church to find some refuge and a community. And it turns out that the church isn't what she, thought it was, as well as everyone else who has attended. And one day she wakes up underground, locked in a cellar with no recollection of how she got there, why she's there, where she's been taken to, and has to fight her own inner demons and these real life demons that are presenting in front of her to try and navigate her way out of this really sinister, dangerous situation. And she comes across all different sort of things that, she never thought that she would encounter. And basically has to use her own strength to try and get herself out of this situation that she finds herself in because she doesn't, ultimately she knows that she's in grave danger, and if she doesn't get out, something very sinister is going to happen to her. So basically, it's just like this girl is fighting for her life through these dark and dingy cellar tunnels. And yeah, I can't really give too much away
No,
because I've done that
Right.
that's
before, and
perfect.
then the
That's
person
perfect.
said
Yeah.
to me, said too much.
So is this so the way I understood this is like The Cellar started out as a short film, and I'm
Yeah.
seeing a lot of this in especially in independent film, and obviously David and I our horror is our main main focus horror film, but a lot of them start out as like a short film, like a
Mhm.
proof of
Yeah.
concept, and then
Yeah.
get funding, backing, and then it
Yeah.
comes into a feature.
Yeah.
So how did like did you know? How did you get cast as Abigail? Was this through your agent? Did you search this out? Had you worked with Jamie previously, and he was familiar with your work? Tell us a little bit about that.
So Jamie and I had worked together over, I think it was like the past couple of years, and we got to know each other quite well on set. Um, Basically, we started off doing short films, and it would kind of became a joke of each time we were casting a short film, we'd turn up on set and we'd be like, "Oh, it's you again. Hi." But we never knew each other's names, so when we just turned up, we'd be like, "Oh, hi again."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awkward, like we know each other, but we don't know each other. We don't know each other's names. And then I did the caller with him. He's the one who bludgeons me to death in the opening scene.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, so I got to know him quite well on that set.
Right.
Yeah, and then so we'd always worked together as actor and actor. And we got to know each other through that. We had actor friends in common, and as I said, worked together a few times. And then basically he just randomly one night sent me a message on Facebook saying, "I've written this film. I wanted to know if you were interested in being part of it. This is the script. Let me know what you think." And I read it, and it was a short script. It was meant to be a short film.
Hmm.
And the plan was to do a day of filming, try and get as much done as you can to try and create a short film that makes sense, but also leaves the viewer wanting more. So there was like, the we were implying the fact that there could be a feature film if there was a lot of interest.
Hmm.
Right.
So I read the script and I really loved it. I said I 100% wanted to be part of it. I've never worked with Jamie as a writer, producer, and director, so it was a new experience for me, and I wanted to
Sure.
see how he took that role on compared to work with him as an actor on actor.
Hmm.
So that was another thing that drew me into it. And then I said to him, "Yeah, like I'd love to do it. What role are you considering me for?" The opening scene, because I'd done the opening scene in the previous film with him. I was like, "Oh, he's going to
Sure.
want me
Yeah.
to do that." And he's like, oh no, I was thinking the lead role. And I was like,
Oh wow.
Oh,
the lead role. But at that point, it was like a short film. So I was like, okay,
Right, yeah.
cool. Like, I can do that.
right.
Uh, yeah, I'm up for it. So we all met up and we shot the first day. And we had missed, I think, a few like scenes for the short film, and we were trying to basically be like, okay, we can't get that done because of time constraints. What can we do improvise now that could fit into it to make a short film? And the plan was to get that edited, send it off as a proof of concept, get funding, possibly get some distributors involved, and go from there. And I remember saying to him, like, do you have another shoot day in mind? Because I remember him saying we might have to meet up another day to get the rest done if we can't edit this together to make sense.
Hmm.
Do you have any idea of when that'll be? And he's like, nope, like, it's all up in the air. And I was like, okay, cool, no worries. Well, it's been a lot of fun working with you on this. And then basically from that moment, without actually being like, okay, this is going to be a feature film, this is the plan,
Hmm.
he just kept saying to me, are you available on this day? Are you available on this day? How about this day in this month? Oh,
Hmm.
here's a new script. Oh, here's now a feature script. Oh, okay, you haven't told me it's a feature film, but we're now filming other scenes.
Right.
And it kind of gradually went into a feature film, without actually saying, that was the plan. Because I was always under the impression it was a short film. And then more people got involved. It got loads of attention on social media. Someone came on as a producer and he got contacts at all the interviews. And then it kind of just blew up and it was this massive, massive thing. And I'm just thinking I'm a lead for a short film. And now here I am, a lead for a feature
Surprise.
film.
Surprise,
And
surprise. Yeah.
yeah, and everyone's like, I can't wait to see it. And I'm like, oh my God, like, have I done a good job? Like, this is my first thing. So yeah, it kind of just happened gradually without, ever being notified, essentially, which I guess is a good thing because I think if I got told I was a lead in a feature film, I probably would have been really
Like hyperventilated.
panicking.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
panic
Yeah.
attack.
So
Yeah.
I got
Freaking
a
out,
little bit of,
freaking
I
out.
got to dip my toes in a little bit, and then I just got thrown straight in, and because I got thrown straight in, I couldn't think about it. So yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah,
That's awesome. So it's we could keep going. It's amazing how much social media has like benefited like independent film. Like you think back like even like 10, 15 years ago, it was like unless you had like a major like marketing budget,
yeah,
right, where you had millions and millions of dollars to play commercials on like local TV and if you had cable or whatever, like
mm,
and now it's like, man, everything is through TikTok and through
yeah,
Instagram and Facebook and other social media, just anything, YouTube channels. Like it's pretty awesome how they've been able to every year in Atlanta they have a big horror convention called Days of the Dead, and they always
oh yeah,
do they do an independent film festival there, which is
yeah,
where we've seen a lot of it's really cool because they break it up into categories, so they'll have like you know like last year they had the Cannibal Comedian, which was like their feature film, and the Activated Man with Tony Todd, who just passed away, rest in peace. Um,
Yep.
but they did all these films, and it was always fun to see and meet the actors and meet the
yeah,
producers and the writers who were like, "Hey, I filmed this in the parking lot of my
mm,
complex where I live
Yeah.
for $1,000." And I'm like,
yeah,
"Holy crap!" Like, but like to hear like them go through all that, but then to be like, "How'd you get funding?" "Oh, I posted it in an indie film horror." Thread on Reddit, and people
mm,
responded like more than I ever thought they would. And so it's really cool to
Mhm.
see like
mm,
the impact that it has had on it. And so that's really cool that
mm.
that's how it got started. It blew up for you guys as well.
Yeah, because
Exactly. Yeah.
the one with
So
the cooler,
yeah,
that feature film, we had a premiere for that, and it got put on, social media, and it did get like quite a bit of, interest. But to see within like a year, 2 years, year and a half, compared to the Cellar to the cooler to they're such similar names. The cooler to the Cellar, the
Mhm.
difference in social media presence from
hmm,
those two films within like a couple of years was insane
yeah,
because the Cellar got so much interest literally like overnight,
hmm,
and it was massive.
Mhm.
Um, and obviously I was involved in this other feature film that did get interest, but I wouldn't say anywhere near as much as the Cellar did.
Right.
Right.
Well, I have to say I appreciate it and I thank it because that's how we came across this film and that's how we're talking to you
Oh,
today.
great.
Like, because
Yeah.
Jamie reached out. I believe I can't remember exactly. I was trying to go through the series of events that happened. Actually, I think it was Reese Thompson who
Oh, yeah.
reached out about the R.I.P. man, which I had some questions about later. But I
Mhm.
think he kind of turned me on. He's like, hey, then Jamie reached out and was like, hey, I've got this feature. Anyway, through social media, the power of social media,
Yeah.
we were
See?
able to see
Yeah.
and hear about a film that we probably otherwise wouldn't have been on our radar
Mm.
otherwise. So very, very cool. But I wanted to know, how did you prepare for the role of um, Abigail in the
Yeah.
Cellar?
So Jamie, when he sent me the script, I read it and I said to him, "Do you have a character background?" And he said that he would send me one once he created one. So sometimes with a script and with certain projects, they will already send you a character description.
Hmm.
Sometimes when you're applying for a casting, in the casting it will have a little description about the character.
Hmm.
Right.
And sometimes you don't. You just read the script and be like, okay, what kind of a person do you think this is? And then you go off on your own and you write your own character backstory for what your connection is with the character and what your similarities are, and then you write a character backstory based on like what you think, you connect with the most, and then
Hmm.
you build the character that way. Um, and I initially started off with that. I know Jamie had said to me that the character Abigail had a hard upbringing with her parents. Her best friend died. Between this time, she'd fallen into drugs and alcohol with a bad crowd, and nothing really, just little like bullet points.
Okay.
So from there, I basically wrote a whole character backstory connecting all these little bullet points to make it flow better. And then
Right.
to understand from, the moment she was born to where she is now, how she got to going to the church and found herself in the situation. So it was basically from Jamie giving me a few of those, bullet points of
Hmm.
about her, and then myself being like, okay, this is what I know about her. What was her mental health in this situation? How would her mental health had impacted her? Why was she going to the church? How would I feel in this situation? What are my similarities between the character? And I always try with a role and a character, I always try and find something that I can connect with the character, because I feel like if I have a connection with them and I can understand what they're going through, I'll create a more believable role, because
Absolutely.
I have a better understanding of what the character's going through. So it was a mixture of using those things that Jamie had told me and using some personal stuff from my own, life, and
Hmm.
merging them together essentially, which is how I got prepared for the role. And then obviously the themes of the film, churches, cellars, sci-fi, like, all
Hmm.
these different things, researching into them, and trying to figure out what that impact would have on her, physically and mentally as well. So it was a lot of writing and a lot of research. But that's my second favorite part of getting into doing a film, is obviously being on set is like out of this world, like
Hmm.
enjoyable.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Getting to sit there and really delve into the complexities of these characters is amazing. I absolutely love it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I did love your character because, like, I'm not going to give anything away, but the character did a lot of very cool things in the movie that I had never seen before in the situation that she was in, and
Yeah.
I just thought it was amazing. The certain
Thank
things
you.
that you were doing while you were being, in
Yeah.
that situation, I blew me away. I was like, wow, like nobody would ever think to do some of the stuff that you were doing in those spots. I thought it was
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah,
Thanks.
especially like the just like because we're so used to like normal like horror tropes, right? Where it's like,
Mm.
oh, what's the female character's role? Oh, to be like running around in her underwear while a slasher is like trying to,
Trying to chase it. Yeah. Yeah.
Chase
chase
her
her and
down,
chop
yeah.
her up. Exactly right. That's
Yeah.
always the trope that's been in horror. So to see a character that was like, you know what? No, they're strong, they're like, the ingenuity they have to get out of certain situations, stuff like that.
Mm.
It was a nice like change in what you think because everybody has what they think is going to happen when they go into a horror movie, because 99% of the time that's the way it is. So when something is different like that, it's like, oh,
Mm.
I see what they did there, and I think that attributes
Yeah.
to your experiences and the twist you put
Yeah.
on that character. So kudos to that. It was definitely very
Thank you.
enjoyable.
Thanks.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought it was
Absolutely.
really like important from my perspective to convey the fact that she's had this really horrible upbringing, and she's, in some way she's really vulnerable and she's really weak and she's had all these terrible things happen to her, but just because you've had those things happen to you doesn't mean that you can't be strong and,
Right.
fight it head first. And
Exactly.
I think in certain situations where, you're confronted with the most, upsetting or dangerous situation or frightening situation that you find yourself in, those moments of hard times and, really like heartbreaking events in your life is where I think you can pull your strength out. And that's what I really wanted to show, that she's had this horrible upbringing, she's had this really horrible, life, and she's chosen some bad routes like anyone would, because we're all
Right.
human.
Sure.
But
Exactly.
you can change those moments from being vulnerable to, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna sink down to that level anymore. I'm gonna use what I've been through to make me stronger and
Awesome.
fight.
Right.
I
Yep.
thought that was a super important thing for me to portray in the character. So I'm really glad that you saw that. So
Yeah,
Yeah, for
absolutely.
sure.
So another trope that is very common, it seems, I don't want to say very common, but is becoming more common in some of the more recent films I've seen. The most recent one that comes to mind is Azrael with Samara Weaving. I'm not sure if you had a chance to see that film, but it's the
no, I
lack
haven't.
of dialogue in
Mm,
horror. Some
Mhm.
people, and everybody's heard the term slow burn, right? Like, oh, some people want a lot of action packed in, like, some
yeah.
people want a slow burn, some people like that. With the lack of dialogue, personally, I really like it because I think you can't rely on it as a crutch, like witty dialogue or clever
Mm,
dialogue, or even with your jump scares when you're talking about other tropes. But like, I really liked the lack of dialogue in this. But my question for you is like, did you consider that like a pro or a con? Because I can kind of see it going both
mm,
ways because you can't
mm.
rely on it, but at the same time, you also don't have to remember any lines.
Yeah, it's less
Yeah.
stuff to remember. Yeah.
It was a bit of a mixture. I mean, I've done films with loads of dialogue, and I'm very fortunate to be able to learn a script within like an hour,
Oh
basically, and
wow.
I can remember it.
Nice.
And luckily I've always been like that.
Are you a good test taker too?
Pardon?
Are you a good test
No, I'm
taker?
not. No, I'm terrible. Just lines.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm really good at learning lines. And I actually really enjoy it. Because as you're writing the lines, you can hear yourself reading it out and hear how you're saying it. So as you're writing
Yeah.
it out, you're like, okay, that's really interesting. You know, that's how I'm gonna say it. But then you can't always plan how you're gonna say your lines. So you can be as confident as you think you are with your lines, you learnt them all, and then you go and then you're doing a scene with someone else and they say their lines completely differently to how you thought that they were gonna say it, and you've been like, oh, well, I thought that she was going to say it this way, but now that we're in the actual take, he said it differently. So now I've got to think about how I'm going to say it, and it throws you off.
Mhm.
And then you're like, oh my
I
God, like,
bet. Yeah.
what's my line? Because I didn't know that he was going to say it like that. So in a way, it was kind of like, oh, it's nice not to have to learn loads of lines. But also at the same time, it was like, oh my God, there's literally no lines. I'm really going to have to be on top of the physicality and facial expression of this character,
Mhm.
because sometimes when you have lines in a film, I think you fall into the fact of, oh, well, I'm just saying this line, so that will help me with my physicality and what the
Gotcha.
character's
Yeah.
doing, and give away, what the character wants and their intention based on what they're saying.
Mhm.
But when you take that away, the audience it's obviously so apparently clear to the audience of there are no lines, So everything that you're doing has to match up within the situation, the location,
Right.
how you're responding to it, because there are no lines. So you really have to be on top of like, okay, I'm in this situation. How would I as a person react? But then how would my character react? And how can you put that together to make it as believable as possible? Because there are no lines and you can't fall on, oh, it's fine. I've got lines that can carry me through this.
Sure.
There is none of that. You are basically just like completely just out there, like, okay, cool, right, this is a new experience.
Right.
So yeah, it was challenging, but really like fun to do. But and I would love to do another film with no dialogue. I mean, I've done a short film with no dialogue, but that was basically me just crying. So that was fun. It was just 4 days of me crying. Whereas this was a lot of like, sneaking around places, looking at different things, responding to different situations and locations. So yeah, it was really fun and it was really challenging, and I think it helped with me like learning new skills and developing skills that I had that I'd maybe not necessarily been able to focus on a lot in other films.
Right.
But yeah, it was a really great journey for me to do.
That's awesome. And mention the location. Where was this? Like, the location was super cool. Like, where was like?
I wanted to ask that too.
What am I looking at here?
It looked like an old hotel.
Yeah, it's like, is it a church? Like, it's a church or a hotel or yeah.
It was a mixture. Basically, it was meant to look, apart from you've seen the film, so apart from part when we're all together in the circle, that is meant to be a different place.
Okay.
Everything else is meant to look basically meant to come across as the same place, but there's all these different locations. Like it's meant to look like this massive, like church that has all these different, like run, like what's the word, like tunnels and different
corridors,
levels,
so the part when I'm actually in the cellar was underneath a hotel on Brighton seafront. They do like ghost like tour things down there.
Nice.
Like people actually have their dinner down there and they get told ghost stories and all this stuff. So
right on.
Yeah,
it's perfect.
It was actually really creepy. So that was one of them. And then the one with the red Victorian looking one. That was an Airbnb in St Leonard's near Hastings.
Okay.
And then we shot 2 days there. And then one when I wake up in the bedroom and I'm like looking around and I don't know where I am. That's another hotel in Brighton on the seafront.
Okay.
Where I wake up again in the bed and I run downstairs. That was actually Jamie's house. And then the church one was a community centre in Worthing.
That's so awesome. Like, there's so many locations and it looked cohesive.
It did, yeah.
Yeah, so there was a lot of locations. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. That was that's challenging because a lot of times you don't have the ability when you're especially like independent versus like a major studio. You can't, like, a lot of these major studios will build the whole entire set, like you know what I mean? Like, so having to be like, okay, we've only got this amount of time to shoot at this location, so we've got to get these shots, we have to get this stuff done because we don't know if we can come back or when we can come back. So that but it did look cohesive. For watching it looked like it was all in the same place, and I'm like, this is very believable. So that's really, I was interested though, because I was like, man, this is like a massive estate.
Yeah, it was meant to be basically like me going from the basement of this place, trying to find my way out and coming across all these different places, being like, where the hell am I and what is going on?
Right.
So I'm glad that came across because obviously that was the whole intention. That
is very well done. So go ahead, David.
It was. No, I was just about to agree. I was going to say, it was perfectly done that way, because I thought the entire time it was one
Good.
cohesive
Yeah,
location.
thank you.
So what's the plan for distribution of the film? Does Jamie have anything in line? The reason I ask is because so our podcast is part of a group on TikTok actually that Jamie and Reese reached out to us, and there's a streaming service that started here. I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia. It's based here called Fearpix, and they are a horror, thriller, and a true crime streaming service, and it's free, kind of like Tubi, but it focuses on independent film more than anything, independent horror. And I was talking, and I was like, I messaged Jamie, and I was like, hey, we're working with these guys. It would be super cool to see if we could get your film on Fearpix and like streaming out there. It's like I said, worldwide, and it's free. And he was like, definitely hook me up. So I got to get his information over. So I was curious if Jamie had a distribution lined up for this film yet.
So when we first had the Indiegogo go up, he sent the trailer to a few distribution companies. And the last I heard was that he was in talks with a distribution company.
Okay.
He said that once the film was completed, I think he was gonna have another, like, look around, see if there was any others that would be interested.
Sure.
So I'm not too sure whether they're still the same distribution company. We could be. But yeah, I'm not overly sure. I mean, all that information is very much Jamie based.
Yes, no, that's something I understand. I just didn't know if there was a place. I was because obviously, like, we want our listeners. The next thing they're going to say is, "Where can we watch the movie?" And right now, the answer is we're not really sure. So I'm going to have to.
I think it will go on Amazon.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, I think it will go on Amazon. I'm not too sure about the others.
Yeah.
I mean, the majority of the films I've done, like features, have gone on Amazon, so I would be surprised if The Cellar wouldn't go on Amazon.
That's awesome. Well, we'll just have to keep an eye out, and I guess I'll have to send Jamie a message and be like, "Hey, you should talk to Fearpix. Maybe we can get you on there. That'd be cool." Like,
that'd be great.
That would be very cool. Yes.
Yeah. So I wanted to kind of transition. I know we had talked a lot about The Cellar here, but I also and how it started as a short film and then was blew up into a feature, is another short film that is you've had the opportunity. I believe you're a part of that one as well, the R.I.P. Man.
Yeah.
So,
I'm not a massive character, so yeah.
You're not a massive character?
No. Basically, Reese, I think, donated to our Indiegogo. And actually, when we're in the church, there is a what's it called? Like a little Easter egg of promo of Reese's book in the film. I had no idea. I had no idea that he'd paid to have his book in our film until I actually went on set of the R.I.P. Man. So it was literally the day of our premiere. Jamie was already posting about this new film, and I was like, "What's this new film? Like, I'm interested."
Yeah.
And then he was like, "Oh yeah, like I'm not. I'm like just producing it. I'm not the director." Turns out he is the director. So, cool.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. So then basically Reese messaged me, because I put some photos of our premiere on Instagram, and he commented saying, it's a shame that we didn't get to meet at the premiere, because he would have loved to have said hello. And I had no idea he was there, because there was all these people that I didn't know then. I was trying my best to go around everyone. While also trying to, sit with my friends and my family, because they had no idea who anyone was. I didn't get to meet Reese. And then they put a casting call out for a character in the R.I.P. Man, and I said to Jamie that I'd love to audition. Also messaged Reese saying I'd love to audition, and then they cast the character, which was fine, because Jamie's thing was he didn't want the same lead in his next film, which is fair, because that'd be a bit overkill. So I just did a little extra role on the film. And yeah, I'm just basically in the background drinking,
Hey, that sounds like an okay
Yeah,
role to me. I don't know. I
Right.
mean,
and I got
Sign me
to
up.
I got to meet one of my old friends from we used to be in the same agent together, and we also went to college together, and we were in the same theatre group together. So when we turned up, it was like, oh my God, hi, like we haven't seen each other in ages. So we got paired together and we just basically got to chat in the background.
yeah.
So it's cool. And I got
That
to meet all the new like cast, and I got to meet Reese. And that's how I found out that it was his book in our film.
yeah,
So yeah.
so that's it's cool to see like the relationships being formed. Like you said, like
Mm,
he donated to the Indiegogo, and now he's
yeah.
in Britain, met Jamie, and then now there's like I got this book, and now they did the same kind of path, right? There was a short film. Reese
Yeah.
actually reached out and was like, "Hey, check this out." By the way, the R.I.P. man scared the shit out of me. Like that I cannot friggin' wait. Like it's a totally different from like the Cellar in terms
Yeah.
of like
Yeah.
tone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
it I'm so excited for that one too. So it's kind of cool to see like a lot of these people that are working together in the past are still working together moving
In and
forward,
out.
and
Yeah.
so that's always fun because that means that you enjoy who you're working with. That means
Yeah.
you
100%.
believe in
Yeah.
them and they believe in you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it seems very rewarding. But I was just curious because I saw that you were, I kept seeing you get tagged by Reese
No, I
in
am.
things, and I
Yeah.
was like, okay, she's got to be having a part in this, and so I'm curious as to
Yeah.
what
No,
it is.
I'm only an extra, but um, I think they said potentially maybe they might get me back, but that's not like 100% confirmed. Like, I mean, if I'm not obviously completely, I'm not upset about it.
Right,
I had a
sure.
great time on set anyway. I mean, if I do get invited back, obviously that would be amazing.
Well,
Because
hopefully
I
you don't
love
get
working
bludgeoned
with
again,
them.
or maybe
But
Right.
yeah,
we hope you do get bludgeoned again. I don't know. Maybe that would be good. Like
I,
maybe
I
that.
did say to him as a joke, I said, if you need a dead body,
Right here.
I'm the one. So
Oh,
you never know. If you see a blonde girl on the floor, it's me.
Okay.
that's all. So before we wrap up, I know we're getting close to our hour here. I don't want to keep you too long. I wanted to ask what do you have planned, or what can you tell us about like future projects? Anything that you have going on right now outside of R.I.P. Man, which we talked about briefly. I didn't know if there's anything else that you're super excited to work on, or if you could share any details or that aren't all hush hush at the moment.
So I have another feature, three features. Um, One I shot not too long after the premiere of The Cellar. That one's called Therapy. There is a Facebook group for that.
Okay.
Basically, it is another drama. It's a drama thriller. It's about a cop who is investigating a serial killer, and the mental health effects that it has on him. And the lead character in the film, I play his wife.
Okay.
So there's a few moments in the film where you see how it's affecting him at work and how dedicated he is to his job, and then obviously his how it's affecting his home life.
Sure.
So that was a really, really fun shoot to do.
Okay.
Um, I
Mhm.
loved that one.
That sounds fun.
I do get held at gunpoint at one point, so we're still keeping
The theme.
the
Yeah.
Theme alive.
suspense. Yeah. And that was that one. That was Therapy. That is actually being edited right now. I think it's in post-production.
Hmm.
And then another one is South Parade. We've done a few rehearsals. We haven't started filming yet, because obviously we're trying to get availability for all the actors.
Sure.
And then another one is called Hedgemone. That's actually got a really big following in Brighton, and a lot of people from London have like volunteered to, be extras or roles in the film. And I have worked with the main guy in that film on some other features.
Okay.
He got me introduced to the director. I actually started working on that film back in 2021, I think.
Oh wow.
And then
Oh wow.
they took a massive big break. I was only a extra in that. You wouldn't have known it was me. And then basically when they started up again, they wanted to give me an actual role. So now I've got a role in that film. And they're still currently filming that. But that one's got a massive following. And I know people are super excited. It's a sci-fi Filmed
Okay.
like post, like apocalyptic sort of
Very
Cold
cool.
War sort of thing.
I love
Yeah, so it's
post-apocalyptic.
very
Yeah.
interesting.
That's always
So
good.
yeah, some of the good stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, it sounds like you've got a lot on your plate and a lot of
Uh-huh.
opportunity, which is cool. So I hope to see you in many more features to come. But before we wrap up, I wanted to see if you would tell everybody, your socials, where they can find you, where they can find information on the Cellar if they're interested.
So my Instagram handle is Meghan_Adara, and my Facebook is Meghan Adara. And you can find The Cellar on Facebook. It's the horror feature film The Cellar on Facebook, and then on Instagram it's The Cellar. Indiegogo, you can find it on there. Basically on all the cast, Instagrams, Facebook, James, Facebook, Instagram. We repost and retweet, loads of the updates about the film.
Awesome.
IMDb, but a lot of socials and a lot of platforms that you can find information about it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
All right, cool. Well, that's all that I had today. I appreciate you. We love that you came on and talked to us. It was so nice to meet you and to hear a little
Absolutely,
bit
yeah.
about your journey and talk about some of the projects, especially the Cellar. So I'm going to be on the lookout for when I'm going to bug Jamie, be like, when are we getting this release date to
please do.
streaming?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Exactly.
seriously, I want to thank you so much. I know it's later in the day or evening
That's all
for
right.
you, but thank you for joining us and talking about it, talking with the film, and best of luck on moving forward.
Yes.
Like I said, we hope to see you again when you hit it famous and you're in like a major production horror. You'll have to come back and talk to us. Don't forget us.
Yes, don't forget this little guys.
I'm not getting there anytime soon, but thank you.
Awesome.
No, yeah,
Well,
it's been great. You having me on. Thank you very much.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
You have a good
Our
rest of
pleasure.
your evening. We will
Yes,
talk
take
soon.
care.
Bye.
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 I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner. Bye.